our great-grandmothers, they made yogurt at home. They made Jell-O at home from scratch even. They didn't spend a lot of money on these things because they knew how to make them. Somewhere along the way, we outsourced these foods to factories, these skills to factories. And now we're paying $6 a quart for something that costs pennies to make. And as for kombucha, that wonderfully healthy beverage that can completely replace unhealthy sugary soda consumption, well, it's a little newer to American kitchens, but my generation got to watch our health-conscious moms discover it in the 90s and make it right at home. Now we're paying $5 a bottle for what costs almost nothing to make once you know what you're doing. Today I'm going to show you all 3 real food, real skills, the way it used to be done. And I'm going to save the kombucha for last, but in case you're thinking you don't like it, I'm going to share a version of it that I think might win you over and change your mind. It's kombucha root beer. In 1904, Jell-O hit the World's Fair. People went absolutely wild over it. But here's the thing. It had been being made in different various ways in kitchens for a little while before that. If you've never researched the history of Jell-O, it's quite interesting. In 1874, there was a British brand that made jellies and jams with gelatin. In 1889, Plymouth Rock Gelatin Company of Boston patented its phosphated gelatin in 1889. And in 1894, Charles Knox developed the world's first pre-granulated gelatin. Apparently, he had been watching his wife go through the long and arduous process making gelatin, and he wanted to find an easier way, and he did. For many decades, women thought that to make Jell-O, you had to have a box with all of the right ingredients in it in just the right proportions, but it's actually really easy to make completely from scratch. Real homemade gelatin desserts, they start with real gelatin. I like to get mine from Azure Standard. It is a good, clean gelatin, no mystery ingredients, just pure gelatin. And when you make it from scratch, you can use real fruit juice. Real fruit, and you can know exactly what's in it, and you can control the sweetener and the sweetness. So let's talk about why that matters beyond just the price tag. Gelatin is really good for you. Real gelatin is packed with collagen supporting amino acids. It supports your gut lining, your joints, skin, and hair. This is why bone broth has made such a comeback. Gelatin is essentially the same thing in a different form and flavor. Our great-grandmas, they maybe made packaged Jell-O all the time, but this is a much better way to do it. Now, the box stuff at the store, you're paying for dye, artificial flavoring, a brand name, and a bunch of extra junk you probably can't pronounce on the ingredients label. The real thing, it is literally only a few dollars of quality gelatin from Azure. It's some fruit juice, and you've got something genuinely nourishing, genuinely delicious, genuinely wonderful on your table. The gelatin brand you buy should come with directions. This one calls for 2 cups of liquid and 1 tablespoon of beef gelatin. So what I did is I simply mixed up the juice with sweetener and I boiled most of the juice. Of course, reserving some aside and mixing the gelatin into the cold juice. When you're mixing the juice and heating it up, you want to add some sweetener. Just sweeten it to taste. You can chill it, and in a few hours, it's going to look like this. Yogurt is thousands of years old, thousands. Ancient peoples across the Middle East and Central Asia were making yogurt long before recorded history. It wasn't a product to be sold, it was a skill. Every household knew how to do it. Somewhere along the way, we handed that skill over. And now we're paying $6 for a quart. At least that's what it costs at my local store. Here's what most people don't know about making yogurt at home, though. The culture matters. First off, a lot of people don't know that you can make yogurt at home, and you can, and it's very easy. I'm going to go through both ways to do it. You can get a culture. I like to get mine, again, from Azure Standard. Now, there's a real difference between a true culture and using a little bit of store-bought yogurt as your starter. You can use store-bought yogurt to start a batch of yogurt, and if you do that, it works for a couple batches. But those commercial yogurts have weakened cultures. After 2 or 3 rounds, the culture starts to use its strength, and you're back to buying more yogurt from the store to start all over again. But if you buy a quality culture, like what Azure carries, it is a little stronger and it can last a little bit longer. You can make 4 and sometimes 5 batches with it. A quality culture like what Azure carries is definitely worth the investment. They have a Greek yogurt starter as well as a regular yogurt start. To make yogurt, I like to have an instant pot or a warm place to do it. I lately have been just setting ours up on the ledge on our wood cook stove, and it works perfectly. Homemade yogurt made at home with real culture is a little different than what you'd buy at the store in the plastic cups or in the containers. So real traditionally cultured yogurt is full of live probiotics, beneficial bacteria that supports your gut and your immune system and digestion. We all know all of the data. A healthy gut microbiome is connected to everything from your mood to your energy to how well your body absorbs nutrients. Store-bought yogurt often has probiotics destroyed by pasteurization after culturing. And a lot of them do have it added back in, but they also come with all kinds of things that kind of negate the benefits of the probiotics, like too much sugar and flavoring and food coloring. Some of those flavored yogurts have more sugar than a candy bar. When you make yogurt at home, you get to control everything: the milk, the culture, the sweetener, the add-ins, and it costs a fraction of what you'd pay at the store. FYI, if you add some jelly to your yogurt once it's all done, that is a really wonderful way to add sweetener and fruit. This next recipe is a little different. Kombucha isn't something your great-grandmother was making, most likely, unless you maybe lived overseas in other countries. This is newer to American households. It came here in the early 90s, mostly through health-conscientious circles and natural living communities, which I definitely grew up in. I remember the exact moment I first heard of kombucha. So I have a friend. She is my hippie herb mama since I was a little girl. I've known her since I was 7. In the early 90s, we went over to her house for a visit, and she was so excited. She opened up her cupboard, and there was this strangest, almost scary alien-looking gallon of kombucha. And of course, we were a little skeptical by the look of it, but she started telling us of all the health benefits and what it was doing for her body and how it worked, and she believed in it completely, and she still uses it to this day. And I'll be honest, it looked really scary in the jar like an alien, and my mom tried it, but my mom wasn't crazy about it, so she never really got on the kombucha train. When I moved to our mountain homestead a few years ago, I decided we were going to start doing kombucha on a regular basis. Kombucha is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. 1 gallon of kombucha would cost a fortune now, and stores are selling it for a fortune. I mean, $4 and $5 for a small 16-ounce little pint at every grocery store in the country, and it costs less than that to make it by the gallon. So kombucha is a fermented tea. You brew sweet tea and add a SCOBY. I got my SCOBY from Azure Standard, but that was the first time I made it years ago. And eventually I ran out of time for it, so I ended up letting it go. And over the last winter, a friend of ours came over for a homeschool day, and we did this super fun day where she taught everybody and all the kids how to make kombucha, and she brought the healthiest, most wonderful starters. It stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. You can let it ferment for 1 to 2 weeks when you first get started. That's your first ferment. The second one usually doesn't take quite as long though, and the warmer your house is, the less time it takes. This is made with black tea, organic preferably, sugar, and what it does is it produces probiotics and organic acids and a small amount of natural carbonation. The health benefits are genuinely impressive. Kombucha isn't for everybody. You should probably consult with your health practitioner before starting on it, but kombucha is rich in beneficial bacteria that supports your gut microbiome, the same reason yogurt is so valuable. It also contains B vitamins, antioxidants from the tea, organic acids like acetic acid that supports digestion, brain, and some sources say may help with inflammation. Gut health affects our entire body. It affects how we feel from day to day. And fermented foods like this, for some people, again, speak with your health practitioner, but some foods like this, for some people, are a really wonderful way to support our bodies. But here's where it gets really fun. Maybe you've tried kombucha and you didn't really like it. Well, you don't have to stop at plain kombucha. So once your first ferment is done, you can do a second ferment. This is where you get flavor, extra fizz, and honestly, this is where the fun. For a second ferment, you bottle your kombucha and add whatever flavoring you want before sealing it. So you could use fruit juice or berries. Ginger is one of our favorites. You could also use citrus, lemon peels, lemon. But let me tell you what I did recently because it was the absolute best. I got sarsaparilla. I added a single drop of wintergreen flavoring, and we did a second ferment. Y'all, it tasted like homemade root beer. That was my goal. It was remarkable. It was fizzy, it was rich, it was addictively good, and it tasted like something that really should cost a lot more than it did. I made it at home for almost nothing. Oh, I do want to tell you about the most delicious black tea I have ever found. It's organic and it was so affordable. I found it on Amazon. I will link to it in the description box below for you. But the possibilities with a second ferment are so endless. Once you get comfortable with the whole process of kombucha making, and once you have your SCOBY going, it keeps producing. You just keep feeding it and it keeps working. It's one of those true old-fashioned skills, the kind where the initial effort pays you back over and over again.
My kids have been on me. They've been asking if we could take our kombucha over here in the corner and mix some root beer with it. So I bought some sarsaparilla, I've got some vanilla. I am gonna add, I've got probably about a pint of water in my teapot, and I'm gonna make this super duper strong. So I put in about 3 tablespoons of sarsaparilla. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla in here. If I had wintergreen leaves, you're supposed to add those to get the real root beer flavor, but I don't have that. So we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna bring this to a nice long simmer. Make it super strong. Kids love soda pop, but it's not good for them. And if you go and buy the kind that is healthier, it can get pretty expensive pretty quickly, especially if you have a large family like we do. So my kids have been asking me for quite some time if I could make this kombucha, because we like to keep a steady supply of kombucha. And my kids asked me if I would make some kombucha root beer. So we're giving it a try today. This is gonna be a process that's gonna take a few days. So let's see if we can make this happen for the kids. I'm putting 2 tablespoons of brown sugar in each jar. This is some really nice, rich brown sugar. It's organic brown sugar. This is super, super strong sarsaparilla. As you can see, it's only about a pint, and it had 1/4 cup of sarsaparilla root, and it's been simmering for quite some time. It's very strong. It smells luxurious. I'm gonna divide it up between all of these jars. I'm gonna let these cool off, and then I'm going to add the kombucha, and we're gonna do the second round of ferment. So this has been fermenting for a week. It's ready to either be bottled and refrigerated or to be turned into something else. And that's what we're doing today. We're gonna be turning it into root beer.
So 3 things that the people that went before us knew how to make. These are 3 things we've handed off to factories and grocery stores, but they're 3 things you can bring back into your own kitchen with real ingredients, real health benefits, and a fraction of the cost. This is what frugal living is all about. Not cheap, not deprivation, just good old-fashioned skills. I have linked everything I've mentioned, including where to find the cultures and gelatin, and all the ingredients through Azure Standard down in the description below. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment below with one of your good old-fashioned skills and recipes that you make on a regular basis that save you a lot of money. Here on this channel, I talk about this kind of thing all of the time, but I know that not all of us have time for the activities, all these activities. If you want help reclaiming your time so you can actually make more room for things like this, I do have a free masterclass. It's called Time Redeemed, and I will link to it below. We can figure out exactly where your time is going and how to get some of it back so you have more time for the important things in life. Thank you for watching till the end, friend.